Welcome back to the We're All Light podcast, where neuroscience, medicine, public health, yoga, Ayurveda, plants, and bioenergetics comes together to create a holistic approach to healing. This podcast is led by Dr. Siva Mohan, a physician with a passion for the mind-body connection who has dedicated her life to helping others understand and transform their health. Siva's journey has been one deep transformation. She reclaimed her path, prioritised her inner harmony, and took back control of her experience in the process. She is healed from chronic illnesses, understanding that every aspect of health is interconnected. Her expertise in Ayurveda, functional medicine, and emotional intelligence has allowed her to guide others towards healing and self-discovery. Rather than viewing Ayurveda as a rigid system of rules, Siva has a living practice, one that helps individuals recognize their patterns and make better choices of their well-being. She believes that wellness doesn't have to be overwhelming or perfect to be effective. Instead, healing is about self-awareness, progress, and aligning with what truly supports the body and the mind. With a background in medicine, public health, consulting, and yoga, Siva came to realize that no single system held all the answers. Through her work, she bridges science and ancient wisdom, offering practical tools that fit into modern life. Her approach is personal, intuitive, and deeply rooted in experience. This podcast is an invitation to explore in the healing that is sacred, practical, and empowering. Join Siva and as she shares her insights, experiences, and transformative tools that we have helped countless others doing along the path. So welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. I actually saw you on another podcast, and something that really resonated with me was when I heard that you felt at the age of 5 that you wanted to become was it a doctor, or did you feel that
Doctor, yeah.
yeah, a doctor? Like, did it become like more of like a holistic practice as you went? So, can we talk about that at a young age, knowing that that's basically what you knew you wanted to do?
Yeah, and I mean, how do you know? But I think it might have been influenced somewhat by being Indian, and there's only like five acceptable professions, and that
Yeah,
my parents were even asking me at the age of 5 on a video camera, like, who's the president? What do you want to be when you grow up?
yeah,
And those kinds of questions.
yeah,
I guess I was asking my kids too. I maybe we're just discovering our children's passions at
yeah,
that age. But yeah, it was very clear. It's like, I'm going to be a doctor. And literally since then, it was beeline to medical school. I kind of always knew I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to medical school.
yeah,
And I did. And then in medical school, I had this just great destabilization because my whole life had been about getting here
yeah,
and I didn't like it.
yeah,
And so there were a lot of wayward choices.
yeah, yeah,
And ultimately, I left Western medicine and I kind of started my own journey of finding
mm,
what's a better fit, what's a better fit, what's a
yeah,
better fit, what's a better fit. And that's what kind of led that journey that you listed out in the beginning of Ayurveda, public health, yoga, medicine.
the long journey that I spilled down for you.
Yeah, and so it is. Bioenergetics, one of my more recent passions. And
Yeah,
I just kind of go where I feel called to go. And so there's a great freedom in that because I don't have the label of
yeah,
I'm a doctor,
hmm,
of, obstetrics, or I'm a pediatrician, or I'm a surgeon, or I'm a this, and I'm in this container that is well defined.
yeah,
There's a great freedom in that because I
yeah,
can keep creating the container as I'm going to
mm,
suit what. I'm interested in and what my passions are.
Mm. And that's really phenomenal because I don't think many women out there, especially, know how to do that, know how to not put themselves in a box and then go from society standards to then creating their own rules, to creating their own type of passion. And I think the fact that you knew at the age of 5 that even though you kind of combined holistic health and health together, or is it combined? Is it just one for you? It's not even just combined, it's just one for you. Would you describe it as that? Or would you say it's
Like that edit. I really
yeah,
do I often say on podcasts, like my definition of modern medicine is that we're using all of the tools that are available to us
yeah,
in a curated fashion to optimize what it is that we're trying to shift, right?
mm,
And that's going to be a different basket of tools for me than it might be for you
yeah,
because you will be trying to shift something differently
mhm,
than I am trying to shift. And so it's almost not modern medicine if we're not taking avail of all that we have access to, because that's the one salient thing of modern times is access,
yeah, yeah,
right? It's not tech
yeah,
only, it's access.
yeah,
Um, so to me, modern medicine isn't biotech.
yeah,
It, it's the curation and the integration.
yeah,
Uh, and holistic just means holistic actually stems from a military strategy, believe it or not,
yeah,
this idea of holism. And it was about coming at the issue or the target
yeah,
from all around.
yeah,
So I don't see how you can do that without having multiple modalities, right?
yeah,
And I think that word often gets misused too, because it's like, oh, holistic means you're taking some herbs instead of a pharmaceutical. But if you're not addressing root causes, if you're not actually coming at it from a few different angles,
mm,
it's technically not holistic just because it's natural.
yeah, yeah. That makes total sense. And I
And
think
I veered away from your original
it's
question to
okay.
take that
That's okay. We
tangent.
can flow down as many paths as you want. Like, there's not one
Okay, great.
path to an answer, there's many. So, I think that what you said is really beautiful and it's very unique. And I took a shining to you because I like the way that your mind thinks. I like the way how your mind works. And I could see behind everything what kind of brought you to where you are today. And it was really cool for me to kind of like be sitting here and I was listening to a podcast and like I've mentioned, and it was like a veil for me of your timeline was shown to me, and that was really cool. It was kind of like I had access to seeing you as like a young girl and how like your steps came to be to where you are right now. And so what really fascinated me about you was your energy is so potent in this world and you're creating so much change just by just being you and your authentic self. And I found it, I wanted to know a deeper scale of you. What I wanted to bring on this podcast today was to really know who you are behind everything else. So, like, take away the labels and the doctorate and everything that you do. And I would really love to know the woman that you are. So, what do you feel? From your 5-year-old self, right? Then you've gone into your teenagehood. What was it like being a teenager? I've kind of heard you brush on it a little bit, but what was it like for you unraveling your life? Like, you're an incredible woman right now, but how was that step to getting from that 5-year-old self to then maybe like a 12-year-old self to then like a 20-year-old self? Does that make sense?
I think that it was messy
Mm,
and there was a lot of low self-worth and a lot of like hiding
mm,
or withdrawing. Um, yeah, it was definitely not a time where I felt like I was shining or outward
mm.
or engaging or social. I was a nerd, like total bookworm,
Yeah,
terrified of playing team sports
yeah,
because hadn't really been taught how to. And so I
Yeah.
was always on the field, like not being sure that I knew what I was supposed to be doing. And if the ball came my way, no matter what sport, it was like, oh my God, I'm gonna mess up, you know? So I just would rather have been inside doing art or reading
Yeah.
a book. I loved to read.
Yeah.
And I think also I had a lot of chaos at
Mm.
home, and that definitely affects a child's self-worth, right? Because you know your family is not normal,
Mm.
um, and it already introduced that feeling of like shame.
Yeah. Mm.
Um, so I think maybe in junior high, like I started coming out of my baby fat and, got contact lenses.
Yeah. Moved up a level.
It was like, oh, like here's like this new version coming out, but still found safety in my studies.
Mm.
That was a controllable,
Yeah.
familiar place. Like I
Mm.
could achieve, I could have good self-worth,
Mm.
and I could engage myself. So my studies were really like
Mm.
that was my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And then I compare that to my teenagers now. That is not the case. Like,
Totally
they would
different.
much rather be having fun with their friends.
Yeah.
Like, I think back to like not really having very many
Yeah.
friends.
Mm.
Um, people at school to eat lunch with, maybe, but like
Mm.
not the way my children have friends.
Yeah. Totally different. Mm.
Yeah. So I think I was really a loner, and um, in a way, if I'm asking myself now as we're thinking and talking about it,
Mm.
how that served me, well, one, I'm not a pack animal. Like I'm
Mm.
definitely a lone wolf.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't mind to step away from, for example, the National Ayurvedic Medical
Yeah.
Board and that association and that whole
Yeah.
community of Ayurveda,
Yeah.
and do my own thing.
Yeah.
Um, define Ayurveda in my own way, and,
Mm.
and say, I'm not really feeling how you guys are um, navigating this
Mm.
practice, this science. It's not my way.
Yeah.
And maybe if I wasn't so comfortable being alone
Mm.
and doing my own thing,
Mm.
I wouldn't be able to be a thought leader.
Mm. It's very interesting because most really strong, like souls of women that I come across, they start off when they're younger, living in a household that really helped them navigate internal things at a younger age. So that by the time that they're old enough to kind of step into their own light and they feel confident enough, they start to really shine because they're unique in their own sense and style. So that's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So, from there, did you always grow up in India? Is that where you're from? No, that's not right, is it?
Entirely. My mother was like, I am birthing you in Washington, D.C.,
Okay,
and you
yeah.
have an American passport.
Yeah.
Literally, I was born in DC. And my parents immigrated, and they wanted us to have American schools
Mm,
and colleges.
mm,
And we went back every summer to
mm.
India, and my when my grandparents were still alive.
Yeah.
And so, those 3 months every year were in India. And again, it was kind of like that classic immigrant feeling of
Mm.
not being American enough to really fit in with the Americans.
Yeah.
Like my house didn't smell like Cheerios and apple juice,
Yeah.
you know? And going to India and being with all my cousins and not being Indian enough to
Mm,
fit in. I remember my mom being like, don't speak. like we'll pay triple the price. Like I had to keep my mouth shut whenever we were, yeah, because it's a completely different price for
Yeah.
foreigners.
And so
Uh,
how did you go with that? Like how did you navigate that as a young child, feeling like you didn't fit in America and you didn't fit in India? Like where do you think that that's also helped you with where you're at in your work right now? Like you don't have to label with one or the other. So it's kind of like you've always been in that position to be like, hey girl, I'm just me and that's just it. Like there's no one or the other. Or did you find it was actually quite tough navigating both? Because I actually have a very close friend who lives in Australia who's Indian, and him and his family have been here for a while, and he kind of talks about something similar. So it's very, yeah, it's just very much like, do you reckon that kind of helped you be able
it's
to?
both. It really
Yeah,
is both, because
yeah,
everything is a challenge and a gift at the same time.
yeah,
Whether that's a personality trait
mm,
or a pattern or an experience, I find.
yeah,
There's there's that opportunity right there. And I think that's the power of, like, when they talk about like positive thinking
mm,
or where you put your attention, and
yeah,
um, the gratitude practices and all of that, I think really is about acknowledging that
mm,
everything is a challenge and a gift. And
yeah,
it's really about where you're going to orient yourself, but being okay with the fact that it's both,
yeah,
right? So, I mean, how did I navigate that and how did I feel about it? Honestly, I can't remember. And
mm,
maybe it was just the withdrawing and kind of going into my own world and,
mm,
playing my games and doing my art and that kind of thing. Um, I think the challenge of it is, to this day, I don't fit in
yeah,
a lot of places. And even so much so that recently I didn't want to go to my med school reunion so many decades later, because that resonance of the I don't fit in
yeah,
is still something that is a challenge, and it's strong within me, because, like, oh, what am I going to do? I'm going to go there and tell everybody how I went to one of the top med schools in the world and didn't see it through, or like didn't become a practicing physician, and have to try to explain to people what is Ayurveda, and have that conversation all night of, oh, what do you do? And why? And what is that? And,
mm,
it just was like really a good example of how it's still a challenge,
mm.
you
We
know?
all, sorry, keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
But then again, yes, the gift is that you become a little bit of a chameleon, right? Like I can go to a biohacking conference and hold my own and feel very comfortable, and I can go
Mm,
to an Ayurvedic conference and really gain a lot from it and feel very conversant
mm.
and well achieved.
Yeah,
So
there's a balance in it both, isn't there, with it all? Mm, that's really incredible. Do you reckon it's showing you to shine your light in the medical industry more? Do you feel that it's needed to be shone more?
yeah,
Not to be like not to take away from the medical industry and not to take away from the holistic industry, but I feel like you could really shine in those areas, if you don't mind me saying, of showing people and being a leader in the fact that like medicine has a place in what you've discovered as well, because you've basically combined both of them. And I don't know if we're ever going to get to that point while I feel like I'm alive anyway, where it's really accepted for the deep inner work of like the internal body, the meridians, the systems of the body to really be at the forefront of healing instead of just like the medical slap on a pill and then we're done sort of thing. I feel like we need to get into there more and do a lot of the body work and do a lot of that. So do you feel like, I personally feel like you're a leader, just like your energy, and I don't know you that well, but from what I've seen, your energy is a leading energy in this field. And like I feel like that that's confidence, right? Like that should, like, you should go in there and ace that, is all I'm thinking.
Even my mom feel the same way. Like, what are you doing? Why are you not famous? Oh, I wonder the same. And maybe it's because I've been raising two children
Yeah.
as a single mother and running a business
Yeah.
and providing
Mm.
and doing my own healing work. I don't know, but I do feel like I'm entering this new era. My youngest is just about to flee the nest,
Oh, wow.
and it's almost like within a few months going to be the first time that I actually like own my time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you're calling out is exactly my desire. I want to impress upon as many people as possible what has deeply
Mm.
ingrained itself in me and
Mm.
benefited me and hundreds of people that I have been blessed enough to witness and guide their transformations.
Mm.
And that is that healing is synonymous. There's no way that I can really separate out true healing
Mm.
from personal growth
Yeah.
and emotional
Hmm.
wellness. There's no way. They're all one and the same. And this is the view of the Vedas.
Mm.
So I really deeply resonate with
Mm.
that Vedic concept that it's about building awareness of our like for me healing is build awareness of our patterns, apply the awareness,
Mm.
and shift the pattern and have a
Mm.
new experience. And in doing so, that definition right there of applying the awareness
Mm.
is spiritual growth in the Vedas.
Mm.
It's almost like that's this picture of healing that I hold dear to me that is so far from get a bunch of, liposomal IV treatments and
Mm.
infrared therapy and take some supplements. Like this is
Mm.
awareness building in that,
Yeah.
even acupuncture, even Reiki, even so many of these natural, powerful, beautiful
Mm.
healing modalities that we have. If there is not that build awareness, apply the awareness,
Mm.
create the shift, there's no empowerment in it, there's no personal evolution in it, then it's not healing.
Mm. That's
It's
what.
just feeling better, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, it's just like slapping a band-aid on it, making it feel better for a little bit, and there's not actually change or action that's happening to make it shift within you and around you.
If I can share a story, I was
Yeah.
speaking with a client yesterday
Mm.
who was like, I have long COVID.
Mm.
And, the story that she's pretty
Created.
solid in
Mm.
long COVID story for a few years now.
Mm.
And it explains for her why her energy levels are low, why her immune system is low, blah, 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 blah. And she has done tens of thousands of dollars of really cool treatments. Probably hyperbaric was the most effective for her.
Mm.
We had a very real conversation yesterday where, when I was just saying like, oh, IV treatments and da, 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 and all these supplements, I was thinking of her and
Mm.
our conversation yesterday because the point I was trying to impress upon her is healing should feel healing,
Mm.
right? It shouldn't feel like you're stuck with this diagnosis and you're going and you're trying these really like, you know, fancy treatments and you're almost victimized by the process and the price point and it's a long shot and let's see and maybe and she was telling me she's been doing all these treatments with her doctor for a year and the labs for a year didn't really show much difference.
Yeah.
And here she is continuing to invest in the same approach. And so I had to have a very real conversation with her about, okay, first of all, long COVID, like you need to put that down. Like
Mm.
with her trauma history
Mm.
and what she has been through in life.
Mm.
And even we've been working together maybe 6 months.
Yeah.
And even where she was 6 months ago in terms of the amount of emotional bullshit she was
Hmm.
dealing with and
Yeah.
keeping self participating in, and what the effects would be on her body, her nervous system, her immune system. Um, it was so obvious to me that, of course, you're a perfect target for any very virulent pathogen
Hmm.
and or chronic disease. And
Mm.
I was trying to give her this idea of like what you've actually been through in life.
Mm.
Like this is what leads to like fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue
Mhm.
syndrome, cancer, autoimmune disorders, like all of this good work you've done to like eat healthy, exercise, do all of these like lifestyle positive things. Like she's looking at it like it's never enough and I'm doing all this stuff. I'm like, you could be like bedridden with
Mm.
the impact of what you've gone through in life.
Mm.
She had a very traumatic history for decades and
Mm.
decades. And we've just started cleaning this up 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can you please like see this in a different way, that all you've done has really protected you? And if
Mm.
all you have is that your immune system's had a tough time bouncing back from a really challenging infection,
Mm.
like, I would rather you espouse the term "I have long trauma syndrome" than to
Mm.
say "I have long COVID." Like, please put that down.
Mm.
And not only that, but show up to recognize that this way is not working for you. And not only that, it's temporary. Like, you get the IV treatments, you do the hyperbaric, you take all these supplements, and then what happens when you stop?
Mm.
If she has not really changed her awareness and
Mm.
started showing up differently in her
Mm.
patterns with her partner, with her life decisions,
Mm.
with all of the major relationships in her life, which is exactly the work we've been doing in the last 6 months. um, there is it you're going to be right back to square one,
Mm.
right? And so at some point you need to take the driver's seat to say, okay, is my goal that I keep treating a diagnosis according to these protocols? Because then she's like, oh, there's this paper out of Cambridge. It says like microdoses of Ozempic have been really effective, and she's very educated
Mm.
and a practitioner of sorts herself. And I'm like, okay, let me ask you, who paid for that study?
Mm. Mhm.
And not only that, but do you have insulin resistance? No. Do you have any family history of diabetes? No. Are you overweight? No. Do you see how like it's
Mm.
like these things in the mind of like, I want the latest, I want the best. Like, is
Mhm.
this what the science shows? I'm like, we got to put that down. Like, the diagnosis needs to be put down, a greater understanding of the pattern of
Mm.
cellular trauma, never being able to really root or ground chronic depletion and inflammation is really what needs to be addressed. It
Mm.
has been being addressed in relationships and lifestyle, really with great changes in the last 6 months. How about we focus there?
Mm.
Like, I would much rather have her work with um like a TCM or like a body worker that's going to really get the trauma out of her fascia
Mm.
and put her organs in the right place,
Yeah.
and get her glands to regenerate and pump out all of the good stuff instead of
Mm.
injecting what she's low in from the outside, more loving up the body and retuning it and supporting its regeneration from the inside with body work, acupuncture, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
Um, and to have her go pay all of this money to do all of these treatments that are
Mm.
only going to be effective as long as you keep doing them and are almost part of a system that's made to keep you
Mm.
like, oh, there's something wrong with you. Oh,
Mm.
we've been doing a year worth of all of these supplements and treatments, and your labs are still the same. Huh, you're just a tough case. You need a special protocol. You need to pay extra money, and it's like the root causes are not being addressed. The root
Yep.
causes are being addressed. The root causes. and the root causes is what we build awareness of. The root causes is where we want to apply the awareness to
Mm.
shift those, and those are always in two places: lifestyle and emotions.
Yeah, that's huge. And what you've just said is an absolutely incredible way of explaining how we can get, as humans, caught up in the loop of thinking if there's something shiny and something new, then it has to help me and it has to fix me, instead of going back to the root cause of, okay, I've had childhood trauma, or my trauma in my teenage years has affected me, and I've always had gut issues and acne, or I've always had some sort of body rash. And it's kind of like, okay, so breaking that down in the systems of what has happened to your body, who has caused that trauma on it, and how can you work through it? Is it a DNA thing? Does it go further back? Do your grandparents have this? Have that happened to them? Sorry, that was a bit of a rant, but that's how I would break it down personally with my stuff, and it sounds like you do it similar in your own way. And it's absolutely incredible because you're really getting to the root cause, and you're not just slapping another pill or another problem and saying to them that they're the problem and that they're always going to be a problem and there's no other way that you can fix it. And that is a very common theme that happens on social media as well. It's very much about like who has the most likes, who has the most following that I can get and learn off, when it's kind of like, is that the actual person for you, or are you going down that road because they're showing you something shiny and it's not actually what you need? What you need is someone who can peel you back and go inwards and help you heal internally. So from everything that you were saying with Ayurveda, you don't really, I think you said in one of your podcasts that Ayurvedic and Ayurveda is totally different. So can you explain the difference and how you would use that within your client that you just spoke to yesterday?
What Ayurvedic and Ayurveda?
Yeah, no, what you teach and how you go. I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure I got that wrong.
Yes, yes. And just to like synthesize, where we're aligning is this understanding that there are layers of us.
Yeah.
So it's for anybody and
Mm-hmm.
for everybody, there is an opportunity where no matter what I have going on,
Mm.
let's say my herniated discs, for example, right? Like there's the tissue level,
Mm.
there's the organ system,
Mm.
there's the greater health of
Yeah.
the physical body, there's the emotional body,
Mm.
like the spiritual, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, there's the ancestral patterns
Mm-hmm.
above that, right? So, um, for any symptom, whether it's long COVID, like
Mm.
she was talking about, or my herniated disc situation, we're
Yeah.
going to progress along
Mm.
that and ideally hit all of those layers
Mm.
in an overlapping fashion, right? So starting with the physical body because we want symptom relief and we want to get started where we're feeling the suffering,
Mm.
but then simultaneously working through the other layers,
Yeah.
if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because if you have long COVID, but you're not sleeping well, then where's the space for your immune system to recover? Or, for example, if I have, this degenerative picture in my vertebrae, but I'm not digesting really well,
Mm.
all the nutrients, then how am I to rejuvenate the musculoskeletal system?
Yeah. Okay.
Right? So like the whole organism, and then going into every single physical symptom has an
Mm.
emotional or psychospiritual root. So
Yeah.
there's many people who have already mapped that out, like Louise Hayes, for example. So,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm thinking about my low back, I've really got to consider my sense of stability and safety in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Those patterns and where my attention and my thoughts are going regularly, right? So it goes like this, and then seeing, oh wow, like this inherited pattern that's come through on that sense of self-security, safety, provision, and stability, and how much of that is really mine and how much of that can I really connect with my ancestors to ask them to just, you know, support for me, right?
Yeah.
And that's where like personal ritual and spiritual connection really has a role
Hmm.
in healing in the physical body, and that cannot be denied, right? So if we're not hitting all of those layers,
Mm.
then we're not really fully taking advantage of the healing that's possible for us. And then back to your question of how my version of Ayurveda is very different than the
Mm.
mainstream.
Yeah.
I think that people forget to understand the context of when um, concepts or were developed, and
Hmm.
that influences the concept, right? So if you think back to Ayurveda being a science, a brilliant system of mapping energetic patterns and understanding healing,
Mm.
was really elucidated 5 to 10,000 years ago.
Mm.
People were grounded,
Mm.
like people were essentially birthed and lived and died in the
Mm.
same place,
Yeah.
and so their lives didn't change much, like they kind of did the same thing every day. They lived with the same people and they ate similar foods,
Mm.
right? There was not the variety that we have today.
Yeah.
These options weren't around,
Yeah.
and they lived in nature.
Mm.
So
Mm.
those are huge differences from where we are today.
Yeah.
And so if you think about it, the idea that we would look to someone's unique constitution, aka like energetic makeup or
Mm.
primal energetic ratio, if you will,
Mm.
determine how to best support them with their health made sense,
Mm.
because very little changing. It was so heavily determined by the constitutional makeup
Mm.
in which way they had a propensity for disease,
Yeah.
right? Constitutional makeup will determine sort of like a baseline probability for
Mm.
disease. But what I'm seeing now in our current context, like very few people even stay in the same home for a lifetime, or
Mm.
I mean, or a city, and everything's changing all the time. And so for me, where I completely differ is I really put all the emphasis on current state, because what I'm seeing is that what people have experienced in life,
Mm.
all of the energetics that they have taken into their energy ball,
Mm.
and that life experience is really determining which ways they go out of balance and what sort of patterns we're seeing in the body, the emotional body, and where the therapeutic target really should be.
Mm.
So, whereas traditional Ayurveda is more of a type yourself, get your constitution, and then live this way for
Yeah.
greater health,
Okay.
right? Like,
Yeah.
I call that the type yourself, live this way
Yeah.
approach. And I feel like that just doesn't work.
Yeah.
It really doesn't, because you can have a Pitta Kapha predominant constitution,
Mm.
but what you've gone through in life has led to massive Vata imbalance. That's your
Mm.
primary issue, and then your Pitta Kapha constitution came into play with it. So it's like depletion, inflammation, and then accumulation,
Mm.
and you've got all three going on. And like, what if your pitta came out most predominant in the pitta kapha predominance, you're just going to get a set of rote recommendations on eat this, do this type of yoga, take these types of herbs, blah, blah, blah. That's all
Mm.
based on just pitta predominance that really would be completely off mark for you and would not have therapeutic value. And I think that sort of like type yourself, live this way turns a lot of people off to Ayurveda, because
Mm.
it just feels overwhelming and like this big set of rules,
Mm.
and also they can't resonate with it, and or it's not effective because
Mm.
it's not attending to the more complex mix of patterns that would combine to really form their current state. So
Yeah.
where I differ from Ayurveda is I'm I'm really presenting Ayurveda as where am I at? What do I need?
Mm-hmm.
Where am I at? What do I need? Like a living, breathing practice and awareness that we are cultivating of where am I at and what do I need to
Mm.
feel good, to feel
Mm.
better, feel more um, opposite of whatever, depleted, inflamed, or congested,
Yeah.
etc. Right?
Yeah. And is that food as well you're talking about? So it's medicine. So you're using herbs, natural herbs and plants that you use for the body to help them
But
heal.
yes, yes, and so much more,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, Ayurveda gets a lot of press
Mm.
for its emphasis on digestion, and that makes sense because um, digestion is really that one system that affects every other system
Mm.
the most.
Mm.
It determines what's in our blood and gets distributed to all the organs. It's the resource, distribution center.
Mm.
Um, it's the resource cultivation and harvesting
Mm.
center as well. So that's why digestion gets so much focus, but people put way too much emphasis on food.
Mm.
Um, it's not just what we're eating, it's how we're eating, and it's also what we're digesting in our life experience
Mm.
that really impacts all of the parameters of our digestive health.
Yeah, of
Uh,
course.
so, in terms of your question of like, how do we meet our needs to reverse a pattern of depletion, inflammation,
Mm.
accumulation? For example, it's so broad because energy is infinite,
Yeah.
right? So, um, a hug has a anti-depleting medicinal benefit.
Mm.
It's nourishing, right? And that's opposite to depletion.
Mm.
Um, so does a nap. So does cinnamon, right? So does being in earth tones or listening to very like low tone,
Mm.
calming music,
Mm.
right? So the tools are infinite because what we're doing is we're recognizing an energetic pattern and we're countering it. So people often ask me like, what's an Ayurvedic food or what's an Ayurvedic herb? And I'll tell them that's bullshit because it doesn't need to be an esoteric herb grown in India to be Ayurvedic.
Yep.
Like it
Yeah.
makes something Ayurvedic is understanding what are the energetic shifts that this thing causes and applying it consciously
Mm.
to counter a pattern or to shift a pattern in the direction we want it to go. And as long as you're doing that,
Mm.
vanilla is Ayurvedic, salt is Ayurvedic, basil is Ayurvedic,
Mm.
purple is Ayurvedic, right? So
Mm. Yeah.
sunshine is Ayurvedic. So
Yeah.
tools are infinite.
Yeah.
It's beautiful because that allows us, for some people that might be overwhelming, but it
Mm.
actually allows us to work with what we have
Mm.
available to us and to work with our capacity, right? Because my clients, they don't need, I'm already teaching them to be able to recognize what patterns are happening in which part of their bodies. Our bodies are speaking to us, right?
Mm.
So it's really not about them being dependent on me to look at their tongue or feel their pulse or,
Mm.
do a survey questioning or something like that. To like, here's what's going on in your body. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
No, it's like, hey, let me teach you how to listen to, for example, what your sleep was like, what your poop is like, what your appetite is like, what your
Mm.
period looks like, etc., as what your body is communicating to you.
Mm.
And once they become adept at listening to their body, okay, like my period's telling me that this month was really depleting.
Mm.
Okay, then it's just about teaching them what does it feel like? What are the qualities
Mm.
that are opposite of depletion? And they're pretty adept at choosing that themselves,
Mm.
right? Oh, I chose to clear my social calendar. Oh, I chose to take a warm salt bath. Oh, I chose to get a warm oil massage. Oh, I chose to eat a warm pho soup. Do you see, like these would
Mm.
all be something that would counter depletion for a woman who just saw that in her
Mm.
monthly cycle, for example, right? And
Mm.
they're able to choose that on their own. That's huge empowerment because
Mm.
that means you're knowing yourself and you're healing yourself. And that's the most powerful preventive medicine, is to be able to do that real-time adjustment of, oh, body, you're saying this. Okay, let me adjust and give you
Mm,
what would be remedial for what you're communicating to me in real time. Let me make that adjustment. And we have to do it this way because
mm,
there is no regimen, there is no set of rules. Our world is changing too much. Like every day is different for most people.
mm,
And it's just not possible in today's climate to say, do this all the time.
mm.
Yes, okay, there's a few things like eat organic food all the time, get enough sleep all the time. Massage your body with some kind of oil every day, like brush your teeth every day. There's some of these sorts of basic
Yeah,
things we can say all the time. This is good for you.
yeah.
But in terms of what to eat, what herbs to take, how to
Mm,
adjust your routine, what kind of yoga to do, what kind of people to spend time with, how social to be, how much productivity versus rest, that's all fluctuating based on us and
mm,
our fluctuations. That where am I at to determine what do I need today?
mm. That's really beautiful. I really love everything that you said because it's very important for us to go into our body and have a bit of remembrance of what our body needs to be able to help us in that moment and our future self to evolve into where we're going and who we want to be. Because there's so many people, I think, in the world that I have seen, especially in the healing industry, where it's really easy to get them to rely on them and not rely on checking in with their body and who they are. And I always say to my clients, if you're going to work with somebody, just make sure that you feel like you're getting the answers inside yourself first and that you're tailoring it to you and you're not tailoring it to somebody else who's trying to get you to lean on them, because we want more people in the world to lean on themselves, to have the answer themselves, to go and be like, I feel like I need basil today, like you said, or hey, I actually need a cup of tea. I'm feeling like it's green tea, or I'm on my period and okay, I can feel like it's been heavy because I've got a bit of a headache. Let's adjust with this or that. And it's not done in this day and age. And I'm lucky that I kind of know how to tap into that from the work that I've done on myself. And it's taken a while to really feel into my body. And I could do a lot better from what you're saying in just that acknowledgement of every day of sitting there and asking yourself, it could be the simplest thing. You've got a sore body. What's happening? What do I need today? And most of the time when we quieten down from things, it tells us, it gives us and shows us that direction. And then when we become more confused with our mind and all the stuff going on in our mind, so I can see what you do is so impactful and why, because you're helping create space from the ego to actually move into your body and actually really feel what you're feeling and then adjusting from what they need from there, which is absolutely incredible, especially as a doctor, and especially having that behind you is friggin' phenomenal. Like I can't say enough how incredible of a human being it takes to do what you do. And I genuinely mean that. I'm not just saying that.
It's so nice to be seen and appreciated. I really thank you for that dose of uh, a reminder, a good reminder too of how special my positioning and my dharma and my path is in life. But
Yeah.
absolutely, like you're saying, the phases kind of in the beginning, I think the MD helps people
Mm,
feel safe
mm,
to do with me in healing. And maybe that's the best thing that came out of it, who knows?
mm,
But also a real understanding of that current context that people
mm,
are coming from and being able to bridge that with their other providers and
mm,
like what their regimens are that they are engaging in right now, or what their diagnoses are, and etc. And so it starts out very much like, let me identify the patterns for you.
mhm,
Let me show you that these are the patterns. Let me recommend the tools and the shifts and the adjustments. In fact, I'll give them to you as homework, right?
mm,
But then urging them into, how did you feel? What did you notice? Did you see a shift? Was this beneficial for you or not? Did you connect with it or not? starting that process of engaging the self-awareness
Mm,
and giving a lot of like validation and permission
mm,
along the way to trust that inner voice that has been shut down
mm,
systematically by all of the authority figures in our
mm.
lives and experts in the data and the pressure to
Yeah.
should,
Mm.
cultural, generational, familial factors, etc. Right. Um, it's like over time, then they hit this phase where they're like, oh, well, I felt this, so I did this.
Mm.
Was that okay?
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, that was great, brilliant. Well, you tell me, was it okay? Did you feel better? You
Mm.
know,
Mm.
did it bring relief? Or
Yeah.
did you feel worse? Oh, yeah, yeah, it did feel good. Okay, so then why are you questioning whether it was okay? Body said it was okay, right? And letting them have that moment and then getting to the point where they're like, oh, well, so I felt this, so I stopped taking this herb and I brought in this food and
Mm.
I changed my routine in this way and you'd be proud of me, And so they're already then
Mm.
trusting themselves and even kind of like acknowledging that, oh yeah, you'd be proud of me, like that all like such a great moment. It's like a milestone in our work together, right?
Yeah. Which is really
And
beautiful. Yeah.
and you're great and that that you're doing great and you have that sort of like feeling that you're going to get the validation for it, right? And that your body already gave it to you to the point where then it's like
Mm.
they don't need like okay, good, go keep doing this for the
Yeah.
rest of your you know it's really beautiful.
Mm. We need more people like yourself doing that soul work on that level for sure. And I reckon that I love how much that, like, inside my body right now, that I feel like you're a massive, massive reflection of myself for years to come for me to work on with the work that I do with women is very similar in a different way to what you do it, but it's very similar. And so I really connect with that. But I also see your wisdom and your years behind it. And it makes me go, this is amazing because it means that I'm still going to keep going and I'm still going to become wiser in such a beautiful way. You're reflecting that back to me. So thank you for that. It's really beautiful.
Oh, my deep pleasure. Absolutely. Like if nothing else that I can be impacting courageous, insightful young women, your generation is really impressive. The majority of the podcasts that I get invited on are women in your age who are really just fearless to be like, I'm just going to explore what I love and I'm to connect with people that I admire. And, I think in my generation, there's just still a lot more of like,
Mm.
fear and a certain way that we have to do things and
Yeah.
letting ourselves get blocked by, the need for perfectionism and
Mm.
doing things appropriately and just like having overwhelm paralysis and not feeling worthy enough to do that,
Mm.
to just connect and to ask, right? So
Yeah.
I think you guys are really something special and I'm so excited in 20 years to see where you ladies are leading the world.
I'll be 50. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be rocking it hopefully still and still going through it all, but it'll be an incredible journey. I feel like every stage, every phase that peels back for you to know yourself is a true blessing because some people don't even get that far in life. So, health and learning how to be in our bodies and listening to our bodies and hearing it is really important as well. So, just before we go, I was hoping that you could touch on why it is so important in this stone age where we are right now that's needed to be connected to ourselves more than ever with everything that's shifting and happening. Why do you feel it's so important right now for us to be connected internally to ourselves? How is that going to change for future generations and how would that shift for us and look like? So if you could have a dream and you were like, man, I would just wish for my kids and children who come after and people that I meet, what do I want for them? Like, what do I want to see more in the world of that I can make a difference and shape?
I love this question. I think the importance of self-awareness is more salient than ever because we're externalizing our own intelligence in these days and times. AI is really cool. I'm not against anything, really, but the more and more we're leaning into automation, technology, and artificial intelligence, are we becoming less capable, less intelligent, less confident in our own ability to analyze, solve, assess, right? And then that creates more and more of a dependence on external structures, on someone else telling you what to do and when to do it, which is the exact opposite of that healing practice of really knowing where you are at, feeling into your body's communications, feeling into your patterns, engaging your intuitive intelligence, engaging your emotional intelligence. We're losing sentience, the ability to sense. Um, and that's what's the most beautiful thing about being human is our sentience, right? We have these, not just these five primary senses, but 33 other sensory mechanisms that we come made with, right?
Yeah.
And so if we're regularly turning those off and we're just giving power to external organizations, institutions, or technology to determine what is best for us, and we're totally missing our human potential. We're losing the essence of what's so freaking miraculous about being human is that ability to have that intuitive, creative um, desire, like all of these things that they just come to us when we're and when we're nourished, right?
Yeah.
Use that. And that's what I think would be the greatest sad thing to happen to us. So this is why I think it's so important for us right now to practice really being solid. And not to say don't engage in social media ever, don't ever use AI or something like that, but also stay really solid in your own practice of being able to sense and being able to feel and being able to cultivate intelligence, to build awareness, and to understand it, wrap your mind around it, and to harmonize the sensory and intuitive with the analytical and intelligence to stand behind how you're living life, how you're making choices. And if you're not doing this and you're not doing this, then how can you ever do this? Right?
Yeah.
So then
Yeah.
it's just you're an empty shell of someone being just hung around by whatever you're being exposed to externally.
That's really powerful and really beautiful. Thank you for that. Like, honestly, thank you for that. That's probably one of the most profound things that I've heard in a while. And I'm not just like, just so you know, I'm not just sitting here blowing smoke up you. It is actually, that is a very wise thing that I've heard. And I have only done a few interviews with people that I really align with, and you have blown me out of the water today on some of the way you speak, the way you think, and then it kind of drops into your mind and it gets expelled into the room is absolutely incredible to witness, to be honest. Like it's beautiful to watch your wisdom come through in so many different ways, whether it's like that little spiritual part, but then you bring it back down so it's in the physical, and then you're also talking about the mental health and everything that you've expanded on today. And I feel like that's wrapped everything up so perfectly today. And I feel like I just went totally off script because I kind of like to do that. Because I had questions, but I was like, you know what? I actually just like to enjoy and see where things go and see what comes up in a conversation. So it's a bit more natural and organic, even if it's a little bit chaotic here and there, which is the beauty of life, right? So,
You know what? I'm almost 50. And so it was funny when you said in 20 years I'll be there, you know?
yeah. I was actually also looking at studying what you've been doing. So there's been a bit behind it. So that's actually also why I wanted to get you on here. So I could just like pick your brain and see where you're at with things as well. And also like give me confidence in expanding my knowledge in a way as well. So thank you for coming on here and being with us today. It's honestly been an absolute pleasure to interview you.
Oh, it's been such a fun conversation. Thank you for asking me worthwhile questions.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate that.
Danielle, well, have a beautiful